Huh.
In this corner. So it's dried overnight. I don't know, maybe if I step out here under the light. Yes, it's dried overnight. There's a lot of rough spots. What I'm going to do now is check for fuzzies left by the paper towel and scuff those off, and I'm going to try to use just a Scotch-Brite kind of thing to do that with, and if that doesn't, then I'll use a little sandpaper. I'm not going to sand the whole thing. There's enough bite from one coat to the next, like lacquer, with this super glue that it'll, so I'm just seeing some. Anyway, I'm going to just check it out closely. Then I'm going to, and I'll probably just leave the camera running for that, I'm going to just do the edges all the way around, and I can't really lay it down on the bench when I do that, so I'll be holding it up in the air doing that, and then I'll just hang it for a minute. I got the hook here, hang it over there on the under the cabinet where I hang stuff, like this, and then I'll just do the front and the back individually, and we'll just keep the process going in that vein. Okay, so I'm not going to bother filming the finding the little limp balls and getting rid of those, but we'll turn you back on for just coating the edges, and we'll just kind of do that in and out as I go, and see what happens. Probably won't film the entire process because it's just going to be the same thing over and over and over again, and my videos can be long and boring enough as it is, so let's just keep it as short and simple as possible. Okay, so I've just done that scuff, and I did go from the Scotch-Brite type thing to just like some 320 sandpaper because the Scotch-Brite wasn't really doing the job. So I am just going over this with a tack cloth. I already went over it with naphtha on a rag to get the bulk of the dust off, and so now I'm just tacking it, just for anything that, oh, you can't really see me tacking it. There it is. I really am. And then I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna do the edges. Maybe I should lower this a little bit. And I'm also going to go into a rag, an old sock in this case, to apply it so that I'm not getting that paper towel fuzz. Actually, the paper towels don't seem to be as bad as the shop towels. I'm using a shop towel kind of thing here. So, just going to start right up top here in this corner, get it into the corner good, and then just go all the way around with it. So I'm using just the very corner of that in this case to do that, and then we'll fan out some. Trying to see this there. I'm trying to catch some light on it so I can tell what I'm doing. Good trick to just use enough of your rag to smear this around, not actually wipe it off as you go. And so all right. I think I'm still in the frame. Hard to tell. Oh, here we go. So okay. Just gonna get in between the strap button and the output jack hole. Oops, I just stuck my hand under it to hold it up, and guess what? It's one thing to glue your fingers together, but to glue yourself to the whole guitar, that could be interesting. Put a little more in here. I think next time, next application, I will even be going to a, it's like a square of t-shirt material rather than the sock. I didn't want to cut the sock because then I got a whole bunch of lint to deal with. There we go. So all right, and last little bit here, right in here. I think we got it. All right, so that's it for that, because I can't lay it down like this because it's a little tacky still. So I'll just put my hook back in the end, hang it up for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then do the front of the back. And I do have my heater running over here too, and I have my door open, so I got some ventilation, and I'm sure the warm air is going out to the front, so it's helping to ventilate, and it's hanging up right there. Ta-da! I'll bring you back in. Well, hey guys, let's see here. Let's do this. Just say back on the Nighthawk Blood Mahogany refinish. I started out doing with the CA glue, and you know, I did. I'll have to go back and look at the video. I don't even know how many coats I did, but it was obvious to me after getting back to it, after finishing up the 335, that I didn't have enough super glue left, that specific brand, which was the fill and finish type. I can't remember the brand name, but between the odor and the sandback and all that, I wasn't going to do like another 3 coats or 4 coats of that. I would have had to order more material. The time I get one little bottle here with shipping, it's like $25, which I think is a little on the extreme side. I don't know why they can't throw that stuff in a padded pouch, for a couple bucks shipping, but I know they're making money on shipping, and that's to be expected, but I just think that's a little over the top. So I already had the Zap It Z-Epoxy, ta-da. And you know what? I made some comments on this Z-Epoxy at one point. I was refinishing a base, old Guild base, and for whatever reason, it would not dry. And I know the mix ratio was fine and all that, so I figures maybe there was some stripper residue down in the pores that I didn't get out and was giving me problems because it just wouldn't dry. So I kind of just said, I can't use this, it's not working out. I have since mixed up small bits of it and tried it in places, and it's dried and it hasn't been any kind of a problem. So I decided to go over the CA fill and finish stuff with the Zap It, and they call it finishing resin. It's not the regular epoxy from Zap It, it's their finishing resin. It's a little thinner. I did a coat on the back and did a level sand on it, and there's still a few pores. I'll show you the front because I've already recoated the back, and on the second one I recoated it, I actually thinned it out a little bit because I'm just kind of putting it on like French polishing with just a rag and a swirl kind of thing going on. I originally did the first coat on the back with Bondo spatula applicator, trying to get it on and cross the grain and get as much off as possible, and I was just leaving too many ridges, and I didn't want to have to deal with sanding back on that stuff. I think I probably told you I'm basically a lazy person, so I'm trying to find more efficient ways of filling grain or applying finish that doesn't take 15 coats and 5 sandbacks in the process. One thing I did discover in the process, I had recently ordered some of this 3M paper. Let me find a bigger piece. The 3M 216U production A-weight open coat free cut. That happens to be 600. It is surprising how well this 600 cuts just dry without plugging the paper out. I mean, eventually you start getting those little hard spots that get stuck in the paper. I just take my fingernail or a corner of a razor blade and just pick them off. If it's just dusty, just wipe it off on a paper towel, and then I keep wiping the excess dust off there. Anyway, so I'm gonna, rather than zoom in, I think I'll just pick this thing up, see if I can hold it in the right angle. So this is the top after one coat. This was not, you can see grain there. So now don't forget, this already had like, I don't know, about 4, 5 coats of CA. And so that was one of my disappointments, because everybody that was doing reviews on that fill and finish CA was talking about how it was great for grain filling. Well, I've already had some grain filler and some oil and everything else on this thing, and all I did was just lightly sand back on it and then start putting the CA on. So really just keeps sinking into the grain. Now, if I had been starting from fresh, I probably would have done a grain fill on it. Anyway, so you can see, Yeah, you can see how I mean, there's some swirl marks from how I applied this stuff, but you can tell once you get down into the, look in the center there between the pickups, you got grain that's just dropped out. Grain right here. If I could change the angle again. Grain right there, you can see, I should say pores, not grain. Anyway, so, and like I said, the first coat on the back, I just kind of broad knifed across there, and then I scraped it all back and swirled it in and then sanded that back. Now this is just the second coat, and I swirled it in. And when I sand this out, there's still going to be some grain showing, so it's probably going to take me a few coats. I don't care. It's an experiment. And the peg head has had one coat and a sandbag, and actually there's not as much pore sinking on there. So yeah, it's kind of an update on what I'm doing with this particular guitar. I'm leaving the neck oiled, and so I'm just stopping the finish right here, and then once I have that done and pretty much sanded out, I'll pull the tape and sand back any step that there would have been there and take care of that. Then just buff the whole thing out. Leaving the neck oiled, I really like the way that is. It's amazing. Anyway, yeah. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to mention about it. Oh, I did on the second coat, I actually thinned that resin out a little bit, put some acetone in it and thinned it out a bit, just so it would go on a little better, a little easier, not leave as high ridges from the rag and all that kind of stuff. So, I don't think I ever finished the thought. I may have. This stuff, I did, yeah. The 600 grit. So I'm thinking about getting some 400 grit, just so it cuts a little quicker. But surprising how fast that I was able to do the sanding on this stuff. So I got a whole nother perspective on the finishing resin from Zap It, because when it does dry correctly, it sands up pretty easily, a lot easier than the CA did. So that's kind of what I'm hoping. I can just throw some coats of this on there and do sand back and buff out the resin. I think that'll give me a nice finish. We'll see. I was debating on actually just shooting some lacquer on it, and then I decided I'd try a pour fill with the Zap It, and then since I started it, I thought I'm not even going to bother with lacquer. I'll just build up enough of the resin and sand and buff that out, and then we'll see what happens. So it's just kind of an update on what's going on with that project. Thanks for watching, guys.